Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. This is episode 182. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. You can follow me at a Stedka. We've got a fun show today. We're going to kind of wrap up the season, talk a little bit of new signings, a little bit of transfers, a little bit of academy, and we're going to do a quiz at the end, which is really fun. Caroline and Scott do not know what they're in for. I've prepared a little something for them. We'll start by throwing it out to Caroline. She's at CG Stefko. Kaz, how are you on this fine Sunday?
I'm good. Yeah, I was glad there was a Tottenham game this morning. Probably, the last one for quite a long while. So got to enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, I think I looked. I think the next one is not until like July or something. It's another preseason friendly that's already on the calendar. But this was the last one for quite some time. We will touch on that. A trophy was lifted inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this morning. That is pretty wild. Scott is also with us at Scott G. Bird. Scott rocking his Italy kit, getting all pumped up for the Euros this summer. What's up, my friend?
Yep, big tournament for Italy. I don't expect great things, but we'll be supportive. It's my grandfather's birthday tonight, and he will be very happy to see the Italian colors at his birthday celebration. So got to pull out the kid for him as well.
What I assume Italian food will be consumed. What's on the menu? Do we know yet?
Actually, we're going with barbecue tonight, and that's I think primarily because we get together twice a month as a family, and it's pretty much the same menu every time. And I'm sure my grandfather keeps his mouth shut, even though he would like a different menu. But for his birthday, he probably voiced his opinion and asked for something different than the standard, pasta and whatnot. I'm not complaining. If you hear this, Nana, I'm not complaining. I will happily eat your pasta meal every time I'm over there. But yeah, we're mixing it up tonight.
Shout out to Nana. I can appreciate a man who wants barbecue. We have this really great, it's actually ironically enough, it's a Texas style barbecue place right up the street from us we go to all the time. And they don't pay for advertising on our podcast, so I'm not going to shout them out by name, but I can respect the barbecue game. That's always a go-to in this family as well.
No doubt.
Yeah, I do have to ask though, is Iowa known for its barbecue particularly?
Actually, it is. It does have a fairly good barbecue scene. I think it's like kind of greater Kansas City, right? We're a couple hours from there, but there's just so much good meat in Iowa that I don't know. You find a good enough selection. So
Gotcha.
I'm gonna refer to Scott living in greater Kansas City from now on, even though he's in Iowa. So that's some really good math.
The barbecue influence, the sphere of influence from Kansas City extends beyond.
Yeah, for our international listeners, grab a map real quick and check how close Kansas City and Iowa are, and have a chuckle over Scott's geography right now. That's really good.
That's a very American perspective on distance, I think.
Yeah,
very extremely.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, we do have lots of cats.
It's probably like the distance between like London and Manchester, maybe even more. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Guys, the under 21s did it this morning. Caroline alluded to it. Beat Sunderland's Academy this morning at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I say this morning. This is all from the American perspective, obviously. 2 goals for player of the season, Will Lancashire, 1 late from George Abbott. They got a 3-1 victory over Sunderland. This was kind of cool to turn on Spurs play this morning. I had not that I had forgotten. I'll be honest. I don't pay enough attention to the Academy teams. I don't watch a lot of them. I know some of the names, know that there are, some notables coming through the ranks. But this was an enjoyable watch. And I think the thing that stuck out to me most about watching this match was that this looked like a team that was playing Ange ball. It was extremely progressive. It was extremely, forward, really good passing combinations. And that was kind of all I was watching for. Obviously the result is nice. It's a cool thing for these players to experience. But what was your guys' thoughts on this, Scott? We'll start with you. Like, just, a nice accomplishment for these youth players coming through the ranks to lift a trophy, especially in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's great that we're playing the same system across all academy teams that we're playing at the first level, which just mind-numbingly we haven't been in past years, which I really can't think of any scenario where you wouldn't have your academy ranks playing the same system as the first team. So nice that Tottenham finally caught up with their own ass on that one, and it's nice to see, and nice to get experience winning. Right, I think we want our players to have experience winning at the highest level, and for their age division, right, they have done so at the highest levels this morning. So yeah, fantastic stuff and some great performances too, which I'm sure we'll get to.
If you didn't get to see the match, it was broadcast live on Spurs Play. I'm sure you can go back and watch the replay of it there. But Caroline, what was your kind of bigger takeaways from this? I mean, we don't need to get into the details of breaking down individual performances too much, but there was some nice stuff being played out there.
Yeah, I do think we saw, kind of the same top performers that the Academy has had all season. I think one I really want to shout is Luka Gunter, the keeper. I felt like he had a really great game, and he has all season. Honestly, he's made some big saves, and it feels like he and his back line are really in sync. We saw that in terms of like how calmly they were able to play out from the back. So, like you said, we were able to just play that kind of Ange ball style. And Jamie Donnelly had a great game as well. George Abbott, the captain, and Will Lancashire. I know there's been a lot of debate online today within Spurs Spaces about, is he like ready to make that leap? I don't know. Like, I've watched more of the Academy games this season than I have in the past. So I've seen him a fair bit. And I feel like he definitely has like the instincts and the, kind of talent needed. And it looks like physically, like he would be ready for senior football. Sometimes his decision making is not perfect though. So I think really it's just a matter of like, kind of like Mikey Moore said when he made his Premier League debut the other day, like, is he ready for the pace of the game? I think that would be the only thing. But obviously had a great game today, got a brace, effectively won the game for Spurs. So yeah, I think it's really encouraging to see the youth pipeline really, like you said, getting in sync with the senior team. And credit to Wayne Burnett, who's been coaching this team the whole season. They won the league, regular season table. So I think if they had not, made this final push to win the trophy for the playoffs, it would have been a real shame because they definitely deserved it.
And if I'm not mistaken, this was a new format for this league this year in terms of doing the playoffs. So it is kind of like, I know it's just a way to get extra games on these guys' legs, but it is cool to see them kind of complete actually winning it rather than just winning it on the table. And I think Sunderland were 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So they made their way through the playoff to the final. So to beat them, cool accomplishment. I also will shout out now John, who basically is a center back but played right back in this match and had been for a while, just due to circumstances. So a lot of these names that we kind of have heard of, a lot of them have made appearances on the senior team on the bench, at least. I know Yago Santiago, Sunset Bell. Like, there's a lot of those names that are kind of right on the verge of doing something and popping up into more senior football. We'll see if any of them perhaps get a loan to a championship side next year, or maybe even League One to just get some regular football and get some more senior football. But it was an interesting watch this morning, and I enjoyed it. And to your point earlier, Caroline, it's like probably the last time we're going to get to see Tottenham Hotspur, quote unquote, play a match for quite some time. So it was nice to wake up and do that. I had that on along with the championship playoff match between Leeds and Southampton. They were played at the same time this morning. So I was kind of weirdly dialed in, for late May, dialed in on some football this morning as I woke up and had my coffee. So it was kind of nice. I do want to kind of touch on some transfer stuff and everything else, but I also just want to shout out, I'm sure everybody's seen, as we kind of talk about youth, I want to talk about, everyone has seen the Lucas Bergvall clips from the weekend and him just continuing to tear apart the Swedish league. There was a really cool feature piece written on The Athletic by one of the new correspondents who just came over from covering Brentford, Jay Harris, wrote a whole feature on Lucas Bergvall that was published earlier this week. Really cool article. Everyone should check that out if they get the chance. But Lucas Bergvall is another one that I think is going to be slotted into this kind of youth category just because of his age, but I really feel like this is a guy I know that we've seen just clips of him and just, they've all been good, obviously. And it's just the Swedish league, but I'm really excited about Lucas Bergvall coming into this senior team as well and kind of see what he can do. So I just wanted to touch on that and shout out that piece that was written as well.
Yeah.
Where's your excitement level for Lucas Bergvall, Scott?
I mean, I'm as excited as you can be on something that is just kind of a 50-50, right? And that might sound like super casual, but he's very talented, but you never know how somebody's going to fare at the highest level. They need to be given a chance, right? And maybe we haven't seen some of that. And I'm not saying this year, and I know there was a lot of like complaining about youth folks not getting runs in the first team, and I was nowhere near there. But I think we could have done a better job in past at times, but you just never know until they give it a run. Like you said, Mikey Moore, all credit to the lad who's fantastic, but he looked absolutely lost. And, when he got on the pitch against City and I mean, it was what it was, right? There was no expectation, but you could tell, as you said, the game was much faster than what he was capable of playing in. Right. The only person I can think of that's been able to operate at that age is Wayne Rooney. He stepped in and just banged on right away from the time he was 17. But it's really hard. It's really hard to do. And I know, as Caroline had alluded to, there's lots of talk about Lancashire. Should he be getting minutes next year with the first team? I think soon some bells thrown around a little bit. I don't think so. I think for a couple of reasons. One, as we continue to elevate our level of play under Ange and have desires to compete for major honors, I think that means at max 2 players from this group end up getting significant first team minutes, right? Maybe even one of them. That's really how it works once you're in that upper echelon of European football. You maybe find one, but primarily you're buying young talent from other academies who have proven to develop, right? So, and we want to get there, but with Bergvall, I think he fits into that category, right? So maybe to tie it back to your question, I'm probably a little bit more excited about him than I would be about anybody we saw play today. But I do think Tyrese Hall is probably the one that I have my eye on more than anyone else. He's, from everything we're hearing from people who know what they're talking about, he's a real talent. And I also think midfield is probably the easiest position to break through in the Premier League, because you can function really well with energy and smart ball movement, right? And if you can do those two things, you can play, at a higher level, more so than somebody like Lancashire is going to have to come in. And if you put that kid at striker, and we're all expecting him to start banging in the goals and find 10 to 15 goals, that's never going to happen, right? But I think for somebody like Tyrese Hall, I wouldn't be that surprised if he gets minutes next year, and I think that'd be super exciting.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I do agree about Tyrese Hall. I think he's really made the step up. I also feel like Jamie Donnelly might be ready for a little bit of a role, particularly in our, cup games, just because it feels like he has the maturity, good set of head on his shoulders. And I just think he looks like he's mentally ready to make that leap more so than some of the other players. And some of the passes that he makes are just God, if he really could translate that to the Premier League, we would have, a real asset on our hands. But like you said, Bergvall, he already has the senior football experience, albeit in a lower, quality league. But I think just having kind of that step up in maturity is also important. So yeah, I'm excited to see if he, breaks into the team this season.
Yeah, it'll certainly be something to monitor over not only the summer, but with what transfers do come in, but also the preseason. And just a reminder that there are going to be more games next season with Europa League football on the horizon. So perhaps an opportunity for some of these players to kind of start to break through the academy. Speaking of one of our own, on the women's side of things, some big news this week. Jess Naz has a new contract. Really, really cool. Spurs women have signed Jess Naz to a new deal through the 2027 season. Jess made 22 match appearances for the club this season. Only player on the women's side to appear in all 22 league games. Really, really cool. She's also been included as an alternate for England's roster for European qualifiers this summer. So this was a no-brainer to me. We've spoken ad nauseum about Jess Naz over the last few months, and it's just this is a great step for her. She had a great season. I hope to see her continue to progress and almost work her way into more starting 11s if she can. I mean, I really think that she could be a big part of, and we talked a little bit about this earlier in the week on our previous pod, like when you talk about a preseason and getting Beth England and Martha Thomas together on the pitch and figuring out how that works, I think Jess Naz can be a third piece to that cog and really create a goal scoring trio for the ages for this team going forward.
And throw Celine Bizet in there as well, who has come on leaps and bounds, I feel like, in this past season. But no, I agree. Like, I think Jess really has made herself indispensable to this team. And I think Robert's been smart in the way that he's not always, started her. He's also given her opportunities off the bench to show what she can do. So, because we know that she's had injury issues in the past. So I think that kind of smart management of her minutes has really helped her, thrive this season in ways that she perhaps wasn't able to in the past when we were, reliant on her, but not in a way that, she was complimented by other players as well. It was a lot of pressure for her too early, I think. So I'm just really happy to see this contract extension because I really think she's, just the future for this team. And it's just been great to see her really blossom off the pitch as well this season, like just to see the difference in her confidence, like when she's doing interviews. I think she just looks like she feels really comfortable at Tottenham. And, as she's frequently said this season, like, this is home. She wanted to pay back the club for developing her, all of these seasons. And I also think it speaks to, the impact that Robert Villaham has had since he's came in, because he's said straight up front, one of my priorities is, developing the younger players and bringing them along, on the journey. So I think definitely he's done that with Jess. He's done that with Celine. And, we also have quite a promising player coming up through the Women's Academy, Lena Gunning-Williams, who I'm excited to see if she can, maybe get some senior minutes next season. She's already made her debut, but, to be a little more involved would be awesome.
Yeah, you got me excited, both of you, thinking about Jess Naz, and then my brain starts just spinning and I'm thinking about tactics and what we can do, and talked about it a little bit in the last show. But if you end up with the front two of Martha and Beth and you have them flanked in almost like a 4-2-2 by Jess Naz and Celine on the left, I think you can ask Jess to be responsible for running behind defenders and into channels. And Celine can be tasked with being more of that like inverted wide forward, right, who cuts in and operates in somewhat tighter spaces. And you find a left back that can really bomb down the flank to overlap with Celine Bizet and Ash Neville on the right side protecting Jess Naz. And I think you have something very interesting to work with. So I'll be curious to see again what Robert does, but it all goes back to Jess Naz, and securing her future was really important, and I'm glad we got it done.
No question about it. It's also it shows a little bit of a change for what Spurs have done on the women's side over the last few years. A lot of the deals that they've handed out are 1-year deals. This is a 3-year contract, and it shows a commitment to someone, which I think is really important as well. You're not just going with 1-year deals and trying to piece something together. You're trying to build something not only for the short term, but also for the long term. And I think that's a really important part of this contract. And hopefully there are more to come down the line. Grace Clinton, cough, cough. That would be really, really great. So yeah, all in favor. I want to bounce back to the men's side of things and talk about transfers a little bit here. And I want to kind of focus this a little bit to start, at least, on what we saw this morning. I was not only interested in watching the Academy game, but I was interested in watching the championship final between Leeds and Southampton, because obviously there are one technically still Spurs player on the pitch, and Joe Rodon for Leeds, and then one former in Kyle Walker-Peters. And I was kind of interested to see which one of those players would perhaps be making the leap up. Southampton wins the game 1-0, which I think, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I think obviously would make it harder for Spurs to pry Kyle Walker-Peters back to the team and away from Southampton if they are coming up. I know that's been a rumor over the last few months, not only because Kyle Walker-Peters would probably fit pretty well as a backup to Pedro Porro, but he's homegrown, and we all know those numbers are important to have within the club. I would think that this gets harder to accomplish now with Southampton coming back up. I also think that the Joe Rodon thing is really interesting now as well, just because I think he's really made himself a home at Leeds and has been really, I mean, he's been one of their best players all season long. And the fact that they're staying down, is he going to be comfortable with that? Or is he going to want to move back up and challenge himself to perhaps, come back to Spurs or go elsewhere? So where do you guys stand on both of those players? I only bring them up because they were both front of mind, having played this morning in what was obviously a really important game at Wembley.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one with Kyle Walker-Peters, because I don't think it was particularly nice the way that he left the club. It was kind of the whole Mourinho, just bad vibes central at the time. So obviously we're in a much different place now with Ange, and perhaps we would still be an attractive destination for him. But, I think perhaps the fan base is making a lot of assumptions where we really shouldn't be about what he actually wants.
This fan base? You're kidding. Never
Yeah.
This fan base.
Well, because he has become a very important player for them. So I could easily see him deciding, I'm happy where I am. I'm getting, consistent starts the way I want to. Like, it might not make sense for him on a personal level, to be, like you said, probably to back up to Pedro Porro, who, has not done anything to have, himself dropped from the lineup. So yeah, that's a tough one. And with Rodon, it's also a case of, he also suffered from being at Spurs at a time of great manager instability, because I don't think he ever really got a fair shake from any of the managers he played under, which if I'm not mistaken, was 3 of them. And then obviously Ange decided to send him out on loan this year. So I don't know. Again, do we even know if it's a realistic possibility that he could come back? I mean, he is coming back in a literal sense of his loan ending, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah, I think first on Kyle Walker-Peters, we talked about it this morning in the chat, and I know you guys both agree. I'm not trying to imply otherwise, but there's no doubt in my mind he would rather be one of the first names on the team sheet for a Premier League club than come and fight for time against Porro, who honestly, Porro, in my opinion, is top 10 right backs on the planet. I really believe that. So yeah, KWP doesn't want anything to do with Spurs. I can only imagine, right? And Joe, and frankly, before I get on to Joe Rodon too, I think if we really have ambitions that we have, I don't think guys who have been in the championship are where we need to be focusing our attention. And don't get me wrong, guys can come out of the championship and absolutely bang on and do a wonderful job. But if we're talking Premier League titles and Champions League titles, that's not where you find your talent, in my opinion. And no disrespect to any of those players. They're 10 times a footballer I'll ever be, right? But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Kyle Walker-Peters. And I guess the same maybe applies to Rodon. I think Rodon would do really well at a mid-table Premier League club. Maybe a club battling for their lives in the Premier League, right? I think he's great on the ball. I don't think he has the recovery pace and defensive acumen to play in an Ange system, and I'm sure that's probably why he did it. Because I don't see a world where Ange is looking to loan players on just because they're young, right? I think if he thinks you can do a job, especially in a position we're pretty light in at center back, then there's no reason you loan him this year. So yeah, I don't think he has a home at Spurs going forward. I also hope for his sake that he's not at Leeds next season, because I think he can play at a higher level in the championship, and I'd like to see him get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I just want to see these players progress, whether it's at Spurs or not. So, we'll see what comes of it. I just thought it was interesting. Like that was the reason this match this morning between these two teams had so much interest for me, was because it was basically these two guys fighting to get back into the Premier League. And who knows, they both might be in the Premier League next season. We'll have to see where it comes about. In terms of transfers in general, and look, we're going to do a quiz here in a second that kind of like looks back at this season, a little bit of fun, but like looking forward a little bit, transfer wise, I want to know what you guys are most hopeful for when it comes to transfers, and what are you most fearful of? Like, and take this any way you want, like men's side, women's side. I want to know where you guys' heads are going into what I think is a really important summer for this club, just in general. Caroline, let's start with you. Where are your hopes and where are your fears in terms of bringing players in and even outgoing players as well?
I think what I'm most hopeful for is that we can get some clarity around the midfield, because that was just a hot mess at times this season with the men's team. Yeah, I don't feel like Andrew ever really had a firm idea of who his, favored midfield three was. And I think part of that is going to involve transfers. So I think there are some players who, we already suspect are going to be moving on, like Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Giovanni Lo Celso, perhaps, because he just cannot seem to make his way into the team consistently. But I think this could be a good opportunity. Like, it's definitely not the thing I'm fearful of. I think in terms of most fearful of, I just don't know that that's really my mindset in general, because I'm kind of trying to be zen about, the fact that there are going to be some players that I like on a personal level who are going to move on. I'm trying not to be sentimental about it. I will say I am, personally pro Richarlison. I would like him to stay. I think it would be a little too soon to cut ties with him, because I think he still has more to give. I guess like a minor fear is that, we probably, it sounds like, not going to be keeping Timo after all. And I had actually grown to like him quite a bit. So that's kind of a bummer.
I think that's an upset.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the women's side, I think we really need to bring in some more defensive reinforcement, because it feels like we're stacked in the attack right now, and we've not always had enough depth at like center back, for example. And I think that's where we're probably going to see the most departures too, because it looks like Amy James Turner might be on the way out. She's kind of been hinting at that in social media, and then with Shalina Zadorsky as well. Not too likely she's going to come back. So yeah, we're definitely going to need to recruit in that position. And then fearful, I guess, just the Grace Clinton of it all. I'm not as like,
yep.
I personally, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if she doesn't end up, coming back for next season, because I kind of trust Robert to find another player who can do a similar job. And I also really don't think that our team is built to be reliant on one player. So in that sense, again, trying to be zen about it, what happens, and you cannot predict anything when it comes to Manchester United. So I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, I think it's all well said. I don't have a ton to add on the women's side. I also would say that my fear lies in Grace Clinton not sticking around. And I agree, defense is where we need to continue to bolster the ranks. I already talked about finding just a high-flying, adventure-seeking left back, right? I think that'd be super awesome. And not that there's been deficiencies there, but I think as we continue to grow tactically, it'll be something that we look for. I would love to see us go and explore NWSL. I don't have any specific names, and I'm not going to like try to play scout, right? But I think there's a weird shift right now where the WSL is continuing to stamp its authority as a very high octane, high prominence league, right? And it might be a unique time to explore whether some talented folks from this side of the pond are interested in trying their hand in a new country, right? So, well, anyways, we'll see what happens. And then on the men's side, I'm not really fearful of anything. I trust what's going on right now. I mean, look at the Van de Ven signing. I wasn't in favor of that last summer, right? And yeah, hand up in the air, absolute moron. And that's why I'm not a scout, right? Because that guy is phenomenal, and I expect similar deals to be made. Important positions for sure are the six. We need someone who's more talented than Basuma. I hear a lot of like, oh, AFCON and oh this and that and breaks in the season. Like the best players in the world, they don't care. Like throw any wrench into their process you can think of. They're fine, right? Because they operate at a high level. So we need a six that can do that if we're going to continue to thrive in the system. Honestly, a six that was doing what Basuma was doing before he lost the ability to do that is what we need. And again, I'm not a big fan of the excuses that I've heard there. Let's get some talent in. Striker too. I'll be a little bit nervous if we don't bring anybody in at the 9. And that's not a knock on Richarlison. I know Caroline mentioned I'm right there with you. I love Richarlison, and I think he is a wonderful person to have competing for that position, right? But there needs to be competition, or we're going to become stagnant quickly, and we saw that. And then I'll be nervous if we don't invest strongly in the wide forward positions. I really will. I think even Sonny doesn't tick all the boxes for me at this point, right? So we need to invest heavily in those positions if we want to compete for honors next year, without a doubt. But again, I'm not like super concerned because I trust the process, and I trust everything that we're doing, especially when it comes to scouting and the data that we're using to do so. It's proving to be quite effective.
I think that's all really well said. I don't have much to add. Let's have some fun, guys. You want to do a quiz and look back at kind of some of the numbers that occurred over the last season for both the men's and women's side. So I don't know how this is going to go. I wrote some of this down this morning, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth and see which one of you remembers the most about some of what we saw this past season. And then we will get out of here. There's plenty of other time throughout the summer to talk transfers, and the rumors will start flying. So let's do this and then get out of here for the day. We're going to start with a toss-up. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask a question. You're each going to give me a number. I want you guys to write it down, though. I want a little bit of honesty, a little bit of truth telling here, so that we know that we're not just priceless writing each other here. But the first question on the board: how many yellow cards were issued against Spurs this season in league games across the men's and women's team? So you just need a number from both of you. And
total?
Yeah, I know it's a bit
Both
random.
teams?
Total, both teams, just league games. How many yellow cards did Spurs players on both the men's and women's side in league games pick up this season? Go ahead, write a number down. I'll vamp. This is a podcast. It's an audio medium. Unless you're watching us on YouTube, in which case you're seeing the steam kind of come out of the ears. So go ahead, give me the numbers that you guys have both written down, and we'll see who's closer on this number. I'm really curious, as this being the first question, as to who comes closer. Who wants to give me their number first? Caroline looks ready. Go ahead.
I'm not confident. I'm going to say 75 because I know for a fact the women's team did not pick up a ton. There were like whole games where nobody got a yellow card. So I don't think it's too high.
Scott, what do you got?
Change my answer, but I won't. I said 90, and I feel like it may be a bit large, but I'm gonna go with it.
It's all good. Scott is actually much closer. The answer is 126. 126. Scott, you almost hit the number on the head for the men's team. The men had 92. The women had 34. So 126.
How many of those were Basuma?
He got 10 of them.
Actually,
if my maths.
My one factoid I do know is that Sar actually had the most yellows for us. It was not
Really?
Basuma or Romero. Yep.
I think Bentaker would be fairly high too, based
He was
not
close, yeah.
yeah. And again, 3 midfielders, 3 defensive minded midfielders. It makes a lot of sense, right? But yeah, it's at
All right, so
90 for the men's though. We're
92,
talking
92
two
in
and a
fact,
half a
yeah.
game, right? At
Yeah,
least.
it was
Crazy.
that progressive style, that Ange ball will get you. So we'll go 10 points to Scott to start out. Here's another one of these types of questions though, toss up, and this is a little bit even more ridiculous for you. Okay, gonna have to brain a little bit on this one. How many goals plus assists, including own goals, did Spurs players record in league games this season across both the men's and women's teams? So we're adding goals scored plus assists recorded for both the men's and women's teams this season. I can tell you it is higher than the yellow card number, so think a little bit higher. And we will let Scott guess first because he's in the lead. We'll get his number first in this one. But how many goals plus assists, including the own goals? So not just goals recorded and by a player. You gotta throw the own goals in there. Scott, what do you got?
It's too low, but 156.
156 is Scott's guess. Caroline, what do you have?
I'm just going to say 200.
Well, now I've got to do math. No, so Scott's 30 away. It's 186, and Caroline is closer on this one, so she'll level the score. 186. We had 74 goals for the men, 58 assists, 31 goals for the women, 23 assists. So Caroline will get you on that one and even this up. What we're going to do next is a little different. We're going to move out of the toss-up category. We're going to go to a volley round. So we're going to go back and forth. You guys are each going to give me a player, and there's 16 names on this list. 8 of them are on the men's team, 8 of them are on the women's team, and this is simply matches played. So matches appeared in this season. You'll get 5 points for everyone you name, but you get 3 strikes. So if you get one wrong, you only get 3 strikes, and we'll go back and forth between you two. So draw. Who wants to go first? It doesn't really matter. You guys are even on score. I was going to let whoever was leading go first, but no one's leading. You guys are tied. So who wants to throw a name out first for matches played? And again, this is just league matches. This is not all competitions.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, please.
So you said this is the top, how many? Top 10?
So this is the top 8 for each team. So 16
top
total.
8 for each team. Okay. So there are 8 women's players and 8 men's players.
That is a very good clarifying question. I appreciate it. Yes, it's the top 8 for the men, top 8 for the women.
Okay.
So Caroline,
I'll let Scott go first.
Okay, you're going to let Scott go first.
Okay.
Scott.
Jess Naz.
Jess Naz is one of the answers. That's correct. She led the women's team. We mentioned it earlier. If you were paying attention, she appeared in all 22 league matches, was the only women's player to do that this year. So Scott has Jess Naz off the board. Caroline, you're up.
I'm going to say Evelina Simonin.
Evelina Simonin is the next name on the women's list, 20 appearances. So that is a correct answer. Scott, you're up.
Jan Kulisevsky.
Dan Kulisevsky is the second name on the men's list. He had 36 appearances this season.
I'm going to say Vicario has to be number 1 on the men's
Vicario
side.
was number 1, appeared in all of the matches, obviously, all 38 of them.
Okay.
So we've got the top 2 off both lists. Both the men's and women's top 2s are gone. So you guys are got to work your way down from there. So
I'll go Martha Thomas.
Martha Thomas is on the list. She had 19 appearances for Spurs women in the league this year. So you got that one. I'll be really interested. I think you guys can sweep these. I'm hoping you can. Go ahead, Caroline.
I think we can. Ash Neville.
Ash Neville also with 19 appearances on the season. You've got it.
Okay.
Pedro Porro.
Pedro Porro is correct. 35 appearances for Pedro Porro. Back over to Caroline.
It is getting harder. I'm going to say Amy James Turner.
Amy James Turner is a strike.
Damn. Okay.
Really?
So Scott, you're back on the clock here.
Dang.
Amanda Nilden.
I doubt it.
Amanda Nilden is also a strike.
Damn.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Okay,
Two strikes
the
left for
women's
both of you.
team, I feel like the women's team took a little bit of time to sort out their super consistent group that we saw, and it's throwing me off.
And we had some
It's
players who were injured too, so that complicates it. I think I'm still going to say. I'm still going to say. Did I say Celine yet?
You have not said Celine yet. Celine is the correct answer. She had 20 appearances on the season. There's one other player who had 20, and then two other players on the women's list who had 18. So we only have 3 women's names left. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men's names left. So we're back over to Scott.
Romero.
Romero is a correct answer. He had 33 appearances on the season.
Son.
Back to King. Son is correct. 35 appearances.
How did we not say him yet?
You got it.
Udogi.
Udogi is an incorrect answer.
Whoa.
Udogi did not make the list, unfortunately.
No way.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at that as well, but he was not on the list.
You're wrong.
I think there's a we had the red card suspension.
Yeah.
So that was I think part of it, and some injury stuff. So that was a part of it. So Scott's up to 2 strikes, and Caroline, you can really take advantage here.
I'm gonna say Pierre, I think, made enough substitute appearances to make it.
Pierre-Emile Højbjerg was third, tied for second actually with Kulusevski. He made 36 appearances this season.
Wow,
that's wild. Yeah. Okay,
and you're exactly right. It was all those subs. I think he only started 7 matches. Was it? No, 8. He had 8 starts, but 36 appearances.
Okay.
So yeah,
no
that
pressure,
is another
Scott.
one. No pressure, Scott. Don't get this wrong, or Caroline can just pick these off and rack up the points on you. You'll be out.
Oh man, there's some names that I just am really, really questioning myself over right now that I want to say.
It's hard.
He's stalling. He's vamping.
No,
need a name.
I don't think it's right, but I'm gonna go with Popstar.
Popstar is correct. 34 appearances for Popstar.
I bet he's on there. Okay.
Caroline, over to you. There's 1 name on the men's list left, 3 names on the women's list left.
Okay, I'm gonna go Becky Spencer.
Becky Spencer is incorrect. 2 strikes for Caroline.
Okay.
I almost said that on my last turn, so thank you.
Okay.
I believe Becky Spencer was just off this list. Yeah, she was just missed out. So we're back over to Scott, and both of you have 2 strikes.
Dude, this is scary.
I know my next answer.
This is a huge risk, but I'm going to say it. Mickey Van de Ven.
Mickey Van de Ven is incorrect. That is your 3rd strike.
So I just have to name one, right?
Well, you have to name one, but you can name all of these and rack up the points. Okay. You can try to name the rest of the names on the list. There's 1 more men's player and 3 more women's players on the list.
Okay. Oh gosh, now I'm not so. I was gonna say a men's player, but now I'm not so confident knowing there's only 1 left. But I still think it's right. I think it's Brennan Johnson.
It is Brennan Johnson. That is correct. All right. So now you've got 3 women's players that you could really rack up the points on. Scott.
Why did I never think of that guy?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Like, never even crossed my mind his name.
Well, because he had up 30 points appearances too.
Yeah. Yeah. Good shout.
Yeah. Okay. Women's. Okay. 3 more. Luana Buhler.
That's incorrect.
I'm out. I'm out.
The 3 that you guys missed on the women's side, 20 appearances, tied for second with Evelina Suminen for Grace Clinton.
Duh. Geez, she played all but 2 games.
I'm not sure why you guys missed Grace Clinton's name. The other 2, each making 18 appearances, were Molly Bartrip and Kit Graham.
Oh,
so
Kit. That's
those
a stealthy
were
one.
I wanted to say Kit, and I felt like that she was nowhere near, but who am I?
Lots of subs. Yeah.
So after that round, Caroline's got a 5-point advantage, 45-40 in points. She did get 1 more than you in that round, Scott. We're going to do another volley round here now, okay?
Oh gosh.
And fewer
was
names on
difficult.
these. This is fun. Fewer names on this list, but similar format. There are 6 names on the men's side, 6 names on the women's side. And this is going to be for most progressive passes this season in league games. Now, let me read this out to you. These are stats according to Opta, and they include completed passes moving toward the opponent's goal line of at least 10 yards, or those completed passes into the opponent's penalty area, and they exclude passes from the defending 40% of the pitch. So, Scott, you trail. We're going to give you the first guess. We want progressive passes leaders for both the men's and women's teams in the top 6.
Top 6. Fuck. I'll say James Madison.
James Madison is the number 1 name on the men's list. 224 progressive passes this season. That is correct.
Wow. How about Papsar?
Papsar is the last name on the men's list at 150. And that is correct.
All right. So there's 4 whole players in between them, you're telling me.
There's 4 players between 150 and 224, yes,
All
in terms of
right.
the number of progressive passes. That is correct.
God, this is hard. I'm going to keep going on the men's side, and I'm going to say Pedro Porro.
Pedro Porro is the number 2 name on the list. 194 progressive passes in league games this season.
Okay, Udogi's got to be there too.
Udogi is just above Papsar at 155. So you guys have surrounded it now. You've got the 1 and 2 and the 5 and 6 players on the men's side.
Grace Clinton.
Grace Clinton is the number 2 name on the women's list at 96 progressive passes. A very good guess, especially considering you guys left her off on the last time.
I'm sorry, Grace.
Show some respect.
Yeah, that was bad. I was
audio medium. We gotta. Here we go.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if she really played enough games, so I'm not going to say her. Okay, this is my wild card to guess the last men's. I'm going to say it was Romero.
Romero was 3rd on the list, 179.
All right.
So
is that all 6 for the men?
No, we have 5 of the men. We're missing 1 of the men, and we still have 5 on the women's side to get. We only have 1. We only have Grace Clinton done on the women's side.
You know what? I'm gonna say an absolutely fucking wild name because of the conversation that always goes around this player, but I'm gonna say Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
I wish you were right, but you're not. It's not Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
Okay.
Remember, these are completed passes. They're not just hoofing the ball forward.
Wow, Andrew.
I feel like he made a lot of 10-yard passes that didn't really progress, but they were 10 yards forward. So I threw his name.
He did have a couple of those diagonals in his last appearance that were pretty nice, but no, not enough to crack this list.
And with 36 appearances, like shit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good guess. It was a good guess. How about Evelina?
Evelina is number 1 on the women's list, 107.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that is correct. So Caroline has taken the lead on you here, Scott. You got to get it. You got to get back in the game here in this round.
Damn. I'm stuck on the men's side. I shouldn't be though. Oh man, she didn't play enough matches, but I'm gonna say it was Beth on that list.
She was not, unfortunately. That is straight 2 for Scott.
Damn.
Okay, how about Kit Graham?
Kit Graham is also a strike, unfortunately.
Man. Probably because she was in the defensive,
Too far back, yeah.
Oh,
although I would say don't. Okay, go ahead, Scott. Let's get it.
No, sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. I want to hear it.
It's got to be Kulisevsky.
It doesn't have to be Kulisevsky because
no way.
That is a 3rd strike for Scotty.
No shit.
Yeah, I think he would be there if you talked about carries into the box, but not passes into the box.
Dude, all he does is cross into the box, and it doesn't do anything.
Didn't we complain all season about how he wouldn't cross into the box?
No, all he does is come back and look to the far post. That's his only move.
But how many of those were completed? Is the question.
Oh yeah, you're right.
All right, so Caroline, you can rack them up here.
Okay, how about Ash Neville?
Ash Neville is third on the list, 82 progressive passes. So Scott, you
None of us want to guess the last men's player.
Round, but
I'm out. Yeah. Wait, do I keep going? Even though I have 3 strikes?
you're out. No, you're out. This is Caroline.
Okay.
Caroline still has only 1 strike to go, but there's still 4 names we don't have. 3 from the women's side and 1 from the men's side.
Okay, my Wi-Fi had a kerfuffle, so I didn't hear who Scott incorrectly guessed.
Oh, he incorrectly guessed Dejan Kulusevski.
But then I said Ash Neville, so it's his turn.
No, I'm out.
Oh, but he had 3 strikes. He has 3 strikes. So
oh, you're already out. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he's done. You can run the board here if you get 4 more.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. How about Olga Otanen?
That is the 4th name on the women's list at 71.
Okay. That's the one I didn't want to guess earlier because I didn't think
so. You've got 3 more names you can grab here. You're already kicking Scott's butt, which we love, but one on the men's side, and Amanda Nilden is incorrect, and that's a 3rd strike. No, the 3 names we left off here on the men's side, Yves Bissouma, 169 progressive passes.
I wanted to say his name.
I almost guessed him, but I just didn't feel confident.
And then the final 2 on the women's side, Ingrid James, 54, and Drew Spence with 46 as well. Even though the appearances weren't quite there, the ball progression certainly was.
So I didn't say Drew. I don't like this game, man.
Yeah, I know. So
this is the hardest quiz I've ever taken part in.
So we got 1 more round here, and Caroline's got a 20-point lead on you, Scott. Let's see if you can come back in the final round. We are going to name the 3 oldest, and this is not a volley round. We just want you guys to run down the names, but we want the 3 oldest players for each team, the men's and women's teams, who made at least 1 appearance this season, and the 3 youngest players who made at least 1 appearance this season. So I don't know how we should do this best to keep the honesty down, but I told you guys to bring a pen and paper. Hopefully you can write down the names and be honest about who you're going to give me. But the way this round works, though, is you're going to get 5 points for each correct answer and 5 points deducted for each wrong answer. So a potential to pick up 30 points here, but also a potential to lose 30 points. And this is a completely made up scoring system that doesn't really matter. And I'm vamping here so you guys can think about your answers. Give me 3.
You said 3 on each side?
3 on each side for both youngest and oldest. So we should be getting
and youngest. Dang.
Oldest and youngest. Yeah. So we should be getting a total of 12 names here from both of you.
All right. Keep vamping. I'm thinking.
And this is, again, just 1 appearance needed to be made in a league game this year for each of these. Yeah. So we've got a wide range of ages here. All of these players happen to be younger than I am, which is not a good thing. That makes me feel really old. And a couple of them are younger than my stepkids, which is really, really making me feel old. So that's really, really something. But yeah, this is, just a little remembrance of who actually played for our teams this season before we close the book on the 2023-24 season, and before we close the book on today's episode of The Depot. Do we have how are we doing on these names? Do we have names? Do we think we know?
I need 3 more.
Scott doesn't even appear to be writing anything down. He might just be looking up the answers for
I'm typing, but
I am writing mine down.
For those of you watching on our YouTube page at Tottenham Depot, Scott's just kind of staring aimlessly, and I think he's using his brain properly here, but he's not writing anything down. Caroline's like busy writing something down.
Feverishly scribbling.
Feverishly scribbling. But we'll see how this goes.
Gosh. The youngest one is hard on the women's side. It is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is really hard. I agree. I didn't want to make this easy for you guys.
I know.
I will tell you that we will be back with episodes every week here on the Tottenham Depot throughout the summer. And be sure to subscribe and share the podcast as I vamp and vamp. Check out our episodes on our YouTube page as well, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. Subscribe to that as well. When you do, the episode will just drop to your YouTube page and you can see us right there, live and in color. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. It really does help spread the word about the show. Tell a friend. Follow us on social media at Tottenham Depot. We have Twitter/X. We have Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Threads. We're going to try and get Dakota to start posting TikToks again. Shout out to Dakota. You can also reach us via email at tottenhamdepot@gmail.com if you want to reach out. All right, how we doing? I think that's time. We got names. We got names for me.
I need 2 more, but whatever.
Well, let's just see what we have. Caroline,
do you want me to go first?
Yeah, let's have your names. Who do you have for us?
All right, oldest players on the men's team to make at least one appearance. I'm going to say it's Perisic, Forster, and Davis.
All right, and what about your youngest on the men's?
Although now I can't change it now. I think Sonny might be older than Ben. Anyway, youngest for the men's, I put Moore, Donnelly, and Valise.
Okay. And then how about for the women's side?
For women, oldest, I have Spencer, Spence, and Percival. And women youngest, I have Millie Boughton, Gracie Pierce, and Matilda Vinbear, maybe.
All right. Scott, where are you at?
I did so bad. I thought it was Premier League only. So
I will tell you, it is Premier League only, and I will tell you.
Oh, is it? Damn it.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Caroline did not go 100% there at all.
I did not at all.
All right. So on the men's side, my youngest are Moore, Donnelly, and Udogie. And my oldest are Son, PEH, and I threw in Timo Werner because I was panicking.
Much like Timo does.
Yeah. And now I realize that Perisic, I believe, did make a Premier League appearance. So that was a glaring omission. And honestly, on the women's side, I have no idea how old anyone is. So I for oldest appearances, I said Spencer, Bartrip, and Bueller because I was panicking. And for youngest, I have one name, and it's Jess Naz. That's probably not even one of them. So this is a poor showing for me. I will say that players' ages is not my strong suit.
I think you insulted Luana Bueller just a little bit there.
I probably did.
Yeah, Luana Bueller, for the record, is.
I don't think she's.
Let me double check this. I don't think she is either. Luana Bueller is 27 years old.
Okay.
27.
Okay, but I'm glad she's not like 23 because that would be
yeah,
bad.
not that bad.
I can tell you that 1, 2, 3. Caroline had 7 correct answers of the 12. Scott had fewer than that. So without calculating all the points, Caroline is our winner of the quiz. But let's give you the correct answers.
Well done.
Caroline did give us Ivan Perisic, which is correct, 34 years old, and did make an appearance in the Premier League. Yep. She also gave us Ben Davis, which is correct. And Scott, you did hit us with Young Min's Son, which is also correct. There was another name thrown in there. I believe you said Fraser Forster. He did not appear in a Premier League game, obviously, because Vicario.
I misunderstood the question.
All good. In terms of the youngest, you both got 2 of the names, but missed the last one. You both said Mikey Moore and Jamie Donnelly. Those were correct names. Mikey Moore, of course, 15. Jamie Donnelly, 18. The next youngest player is Dane Scarlett, only 19.
I almost put him.
Oh, duh.
So you both missed on that one. On the women's side, Rhea Percival was the correct for the oldest player, 33 years old. You guys missed Amy James Turner, 32 years old. And then Becky Spencer was the correct answer, which you both got at 32 years old. And then for youngest players, Caroline did get Matilda Vinberg at 20 years old. The other 2 names were not mentioned. Grace Clinton at 20 and Esmita Ale at 21.
Asmita,
is
oh my God.
the list. Yes, exactly. So a lot of youth still to be had in that women's team. But yeah, Luana Buller definitely 27, not one of the oldest players. But yeah, that's kind of how that went. Yeah, Rhea Percival, Rebecca Spencer, and Amy Turner, the oldest players. And then you could have even gone, I mean, the closer names would have been names like Ash Neville, Drew Spence, Scott's favorite player, Ramona Petzelberger, who was also 30.
I almost put her
and
name down, actually, to be honest.
And so is Shalina Zadorsky. She is 30 as well, but those 30-year-olds not older than the 32 and 33-year-olds on the women's side. So, and then on the men's side, Forster did not appear in a Premier League game. He of course did play in that League Cup game, that ill-fated League Cup
very
game.
memorable.
But the other name that almost made the cut was Eric Dyer. He's 29, not quite as old as Ben Davis.
Oh,
And then Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Timo, and Davison Sanchez actually made an appearance, all 27, but not quite up to that 30 benchmark. So that is where we leave it. That's going to do it. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
You have been a ruthless quiz master, I have to say.
Ruthless Quizmaster is not something I've ever been called, but I will take that to the grave. That is an honor. that will be in the bio next week for sure. As we come back to talk Spurs. This was fun, guys. You can follow Scott at Scott G Bird. Follow Caroline at CG Stefko. You can follow me at Aestetka. Maybe I'll change my handle to Ruthless Quizmaster if it's not already taken. Who knows? But until next week, this has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, come on, you Spurs.